Chinese manufacturers allegedly exposing the truth behind the production of luxury goods. Tell us more about that.
That's right, Sharon. That in response to Trump's tariff hikes, Chinese factories are flooding TikTok with viral content claiming to expose how luxury goods are really made in China. For brands such as Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, all the way to Lululemon and Nike, as they say, they're saying factories produce the same products for a fraction of the cost.
When you think of luxury goods, you think about the meticulous craftsmanship. You think about the exclusivity of it. You think about the history and the heritage. You think about the culture of those items. But we don't necessarily relate that to being mass produced in China warehouses on production lines, right? We don't really think about that. But recently on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and other reseller forums, there's been a growing belief that some of the world's most expensive bags are secretly being made in Chinese factories. So what's really going on here? I wanted to take a couple days because I noticed that this was a viral story, right? And so I wanted to do some research to really find out what's going on. So today I'm going to share with you my research as well as my experience. So let's get right into it, man. Start with the facts. What the labels say. According to industry sources and brand disclosures, most of the world's top tier luxury bags are not made in China. Hermes, otherwise, in the hood we call it Hermes. In other places, it's known as Hermes. Hermes, an Hermes bag. It's an iconic bag. You know what I'm saying? And then they have like the Birkins and the Kelly. They handcrafted in France. But then you got Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton says it's made in France, Spain, and the US. Dior. Production is kept between France and Italy. Gucci, Celine, Bottega. All mostly handcrafted in Italy. Low, made in Spain. Supposedly using traditional leatherwork. And Yves Saint Laurent, or in the hood, we call it Saint Laurent. It's made in France and Italy. So, why everybody talking about China plug? Who is the China plug? What's going on with all these posts about China plug? So we're going to dig a little deeper into it and find out. All right, now look, all on TikTok, all on YouTube, all on Instagram. I know you done seen those videos of those big stores, big malls, big warehouses full of designer bags. And they look exactly like the real thing. Why? That's because China leads the world in producing what's called super fakes, aka super perfects, aka triple A's, aka triple A plus. And if you didn't know, there's levels to the quality of the fakes, starting all the way down to an A grade fake, all the way up to a super fake or a super perfect. Now, what does this mean? Now, if you have a super perfect item, right, luxury good, it's almost an exact copy, an exact match of the authentic thing. You know, they got perfect stitches. The stitches match up. The serial numbers match up. The dust bags, the receipts, everything come with it, right? And that's when you get that super perfect or that super fake. Now, for the average shopper and sometimes even the experts, man, it's hard for us to tell what's real and what's not. So then naturally, people finna start wondering, if the fake's this good, maybe they using the same factory as the real ones. And this is where the rumor comes from, because suspicion spreads fast. And then that's where you get the saying, they all come from the same factory. They all made in the same factory. But is it true? Now, here's where things get tricky. They got gray areas. Even if the bag say made in Italy, it don't necessarily mean that every single part of the bag came from Italy, or every single part of the bag came from France, right? The leather might be Italian. The hardware, the buttons, the little round things to, like any of the extras that hold on to the handles and stuff. All of those things might have came from China. The zipper might be made in Japan or America, but then the dust bag and the box comes from China. So what they do, right? They have to, in order to pass regulations in the global supply chain, a lot of them, they use pre-made components from overseas, right? And then they order pre-made components from overseas, zippers, buttons, hardware, things like that, right? Boxes, dust bags, and then they use the leather and the stitching and just enough material and do just enough of the process for it to say made in Italy, right? And that's done under what's called legal loopholes. So technically, no lies are being told, but it's still a little off, right? Check it. Misinformation. With all these recent posts, and I don't know why it's been so hyped now, but this been going on for years, since the early 2000s, right? But social media has only added to the confusion, right? Because you're like, damn, I can go get these Dior's for 250, 220. You know what I'm saying? Bro just paid 12, 1300 for his Dior's, right? So this is what happens, right? Creators often show bags from Chinese replica markets, calling them dupes, mirror copies, or even claiming that that they're made in the same factories as the authentic or real designer bags. However, I know you hear them saying they're all made in China anyway. You just paying for a name. But as we seen, brands like Hermes, Louis Vuitton, and Dior, they go to great lengths to keep their production in Europe, or so they say. So who's really producing in China? Let's take a look at it and see. Brands like Coach, Michael Kors, Prada, all these brands are made in China. There's a lot of other brands that's also exclusively made in China, right? But they're still all about European production. When someone says luxury bags are made in China, they are only partial right. And a lot of times they're not referring to the elite tier of people that we talking about here. We're not talking about those super millionaires, billionaires, things like that. We're talking about average people, right? So why do people still believe this myth, right? Let's face it. The belief that all luxury bags are made in China is a mix of fact, myth, marketing, and confusion. So the next time you in an argument with somebody about whether the goods are real or fake, or if they come from the same factory or they don't, you both could be right. So there's no sense in arguing or debating about this. You both could possibly be right, right? All right, listen. Counterfeit culture feeds the rumors. We all like some good Supreme. We all like some good Louis Vuitton. We all used to love a good pair of Yeezys. The Dior is king, you know, and it's just what it is. But global production and loopholes in the laws, copyright laws, trade laws, it muddies the waters a bit. And brand silence doesn't help when brands stay silent on these things, right? That just adds more fuel to the fire. And we all know, as they say, any press is good press. But let's be honest. If you paying $3,000 for a bag, $400 for a t-shirt, $1,200 for a pair of sneakers, it's worth knowing where it actually came from and why it matters. But we also gonna talk about the quality of the product, right? Now, I'm a secondhand goods reseller. And I myself, I've been a perpetrator. Yeah. I done bought real goods. I done bought fake goods. Sometimes back in the Yeezy hype, I used to buy a pair of fake Yeezys and I would buy a pair of real Yeezys. The fake ones I would wear to work and the real ones I would wear out on dates and stuff. And I'm here to tell you though, the quality, there's a difference in the quality, even if it's the super perfect, right? There's going to be slight differences in the quality. Like, for instance, my authentic Yeezys were a lot more comfortable than my non-authentic Yeezys or my super perfect Yeezys. However, my Christian Louboutins, right? My super perfect, my fakes were a lot more comfortable than my authentic ones. So it's simply an issue of preference. So in the 90s and early 2000s, we had all these black-owned brands like Fubu, Carl Kanai, Fat Form, Wooware, Sean John, Rockaware, Mecca Medina. That was one of my favorites. And somehow along the line, and those were greatness. And nobody was really wearing Louis Vuitton. We was always wearing polo. Nobody was wearing Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Fendi bags, and things like that, except for like the elite. But like down here where we at, nobody was really doing that for real. You might find one or two OGs in the hood or one or two cats in the hood that was doing it, but that wasn't really a thing. And what happened along the lines was that our companies were bought out, sold, bankrupted, diluted, and made useless. So so that these European companies can come in and have our rappers promote these clothes. But even back then, those clothes were a lot more affordable than a lot of these things, you know. So we can really get back to doing our own thing in the spirit of for us and by us. And then you would absolutely know that your product wasn't made in China or a factory. And you would absolutely know the quality of the product that you have. Right? In closing, in the end, this is not about bags or luxury goods, who's broke, who's not broke, who's right, who's wrong. It's about the craftsmanship. It's about the story. It's about the history. It's about the subculture. It's about the legacy. And now you guys know the truth. I'm 618 CEEZ. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Do you wear super fakes, super perfects? Would you wear a super fake, super perfect, or do you keep it all the way real and authentic? Me, personally, I'm torn in between. You know, it just all depends. Most of the time, no, I wouldn't, because I personally realized the quality is just not there. Even when I went and found the best of the best super fakes or super perfects, the quality still wasn't the same quality as the authentic thing. So for me, it's a no. But I'm not judging anybody else who do. I'm 618 CEEZ. If ain't nobody told you they love you, I love you and I appreciate you. And you know your boy want to see you win. I'm out.